I'm glad that people seem to be responding to this moment in the film, because it really made an impact on me when we filmed it.
Hey there, welcome to the third part of my chat with Chris Chapman, he said, almost falling over, who is the producer and director of many Doctor Who documentaries for the DVD and Blu-ray ranges. In this 4-part interview, I've been talking to Chris about his work for the Season 8 Blu-ray box set as part of the collection series. And let's join Chris as he talks about how the use of drones is particularly handy when it comes to making a documentary like Devil's Weekend.
On the Terrance Dicks thing, you kind of look at it and think, I don't see how this benefits from a drone, really, because it's London streets and intimacy, and but with Devil's Weekend, being able to fly the camera, being able to put Katy and John up to the top of the church tower, and then put the camera 100 meters above them, and see a genuine bird's eye view, I think it's that kind of thing that I hope, even for people who think, I've been to Aldbourne, I've seen Return to Devil's End, and I've seen the making of and the DVD. I've done this. Why do I need this? I hope even for those people, those kind of moments give you something extra.
Yeah, I mean, it really gives you such a scale, and you're kind of floating through the heavens above these people as they're strolling along. And I like the way you make the cameras invisible as well. It's just, I can remember one moment where Katy Manning and John Levene are walking towards a barrow in Devil's Weekend, and we see them from behind. We're just following them at ground level, and then you switch to a drone, and they still seem to be walking towards the barrow, and yet there's no camera to be seen at ground level. It's cinematic magic, Chris. How do you do it?
Cheating is how you do it. No, I mean, hopefully you shouldn't be thinking that. You shouldn't be noticing the invisible camera. But no, I guess with these things, it's always a balance, because you want unexpected stuff to happen naturally, and you also want it to feel big and grand and epic and like a sequence. You want to build a sequence each time, which I'm really keen on. And sometimes, if you look at something like when we did Living with Levene or something like that, we try and be a lot more off the cuff and not give it a sense of a sequence being built, but more like just stuff is happening right in front of you and you're witnessing it. But with something like the Aldbourne one, you want to use the location and you want to show off, so I'll always try and protect that first take, that whatever Katy and John are saying or doing, it's not scripted. It's not, I'll have a plan for like, let's go into the churchyard and let's maybe look at the church, and obviously that means we shouldn't be talking about the pub. We want to be, let's use the church, and I'll set them off. And I don't really want to put words, I don't want to put words in the mouth at all. I want to see what they say, and I'll try and capture that close up on a handheld camera, maybe on the first pass, so that we've got that's the reality, that's the thing that actually happened, and I protect that, and I don't want to mess with that. But around that, then, like, I'm trying to think of a good movie analogy of things that are kind of bolting. It's a bit like in the 80s cartoon series Centurions, if anybody remembers that, when they go power extreme and they put their arms out and then bits of body armor kind of onto them. And I'm basically doing that with the sequence. I've got Katy Manning doing that, and I'm bolting on the power armor of a drone shot of you walking and your feet coming up the stairs, and a listening shot here, and somebody walking past over there, and a bird in the sky. And I'm bolting on that stuff to the reality of it in order to make it feel fun. In order to kind of say, well, let's give it as much kind of love as we can.
The key word is joy, isn't it? They're so buzzed up. Did you have to kind of do anything to create that atmosphere, or was that just naturally them?
I think the lovely thing, when you pitch a documentary about Katy Manning and John Levene, automatically you're getting big personalities, and that's why I suggested the two of them. And I've worked with Katy a lot, and I've worked with John a few times, and I knew we needed them as this kind of gravitational force at the middle of your film, and I wanted it to be kind of a spiritual successor to what we did with the Green Death for season 10, when Katy and Stuart Bevan went back on Bessie into Derry and revisited those locations. And just like that film, it was a situation where we'd already done a making of. We'd already told the behind the scenes stories of what happened, but we'd done that in a kind of London studio kind of safe environment. And in both cases, I wanted to say, let's go back to the real location and really make it about the location and the residents, and not feel that pressure to tell the behind the scenes story of the Daemons, because we've done that.
Yeah.
So let's do something about its legacy, and what does Aldbourne mean to Doctor Who, and what does Doctor Who mean to Aldbourne, really is what the film's about. And I think with someone like Katy, you know, Katy's very keen, rightly so, not to repeat herself, you know, and she wants to do things because they are new, exciting experiences, as she felt in Derry. And she wanted, and I think initially she said to me, do you not think Aldbourne has been done? Because I think the cast have been back there so many times over the years and had lovely times, but you know, you think, oh God, what do I have to say that I haven't said? And I think Katy had a great time. She certainly said she had a great time, because I really set out to try and find the quirks and the stories that hadn't been told.
Yeah, and you really do.
We were aware of, obviously, that Keith Barnfather had made the great documentary Return to Devil's End back in '95, and that will always exist as this beautiful time capsule, because it's got John, it's got Nick, it's got Richard and John Levene and Chris Barry. These wonderful people aren't with us anymore. I'm quite relieved they didn't have Katy, that Katy was in Australia at that point. So immediately our film benefits from Katy. But I didn't want us to repeat that film either. I wanted people to be able to still enjoy that and then see our film as a kind of companion, a sibling, you know, to that.
Absolutely. And, you know, with all the production values that we spoke about. So I was struck by how much the Daemons means to so many people in Aldbourne 50 years later.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm sure, like any location, there must be people who are just sick to the death of it. You know, like, oh God, Doctor Who fans again. You know, but I didn't meet those people. I'm sure they exist. But Aldbourne was very gracious to us, and we immediately connected with the Aldbourne Heritage Centre, who have a great team there. Because they actually have a physical centre that you can go into in the village now, that's about the history of Aldbourne, but has a big Doctor Who section. So the village was very helpful, the parish council and the church and the pub, the Blue Ball, and everybody kind of, you know, wanted to help us. And I think saw that we didn't mean it to be a 50th anniversary thing, because originally season 8 was intended for release last year. So we weren't really thinking about the anniversary, but because of the delay, it brought us that bit closer to the 50th. And so we could say, really, this is 50 years. And I think suddenly that makes a bit more sense to people of why do another thing. And no, I thought that it has made an impact. I would have loved to, if we'd done it in March, I think we would have done more indoor stuff. And what I'd love to, the story that hasn't been told really is, it may be a bit too wide for this, but it's Aldbourne has this amazing history with, which is told in Band of Brothers, in the Spielberg Tom Hanks series, that basically the regiment, the Easy Company that you follow in Band of Brothers, was stationed in Aldbourne, and the pub that they had their last meeting in before they went to Europe, you know, before D-Day, is the minutes of that are on the wall of the pub, you know. And so Aldbourne gets tourists from Doctor Who, but it gets tourists from America, you know, whose grandparents, whose parents kind of were GIs who came over and lived in Aldbourne for 6 months before they went onto the continent. And so there's all this history to Aldbourne beyond the Daemons that I wanted to try and get in, but didn't, because we couldn't film indoors, basically. And I didn't want it to be I wanted to go into the pub and see these things on the wall. It would have only been like a little thing, but...
The funny thing is, you know, when I was watching it, that village is so kind of, it's just so sort of external, isn't it? I didn't think, oh, it'd be nice to see inside that pub. You know, it's not like you're thinking. Let's talk about one very special moment in the film, without going into too much detail. You know, there's a lovely sort of quiet, reflective moment between Katy and John on the barrow, when they're sort of, you know, they're lying on the barrow, and there's this wonderful conversation. How do you capture a moment like that without intruding, or, you know, how do you make them forget you're there?
Yeah, there seems to. I mean, I'm glad that people seem to be responding to this moment in the film, because it really made an impact on me when we filmed it. The background to that is a good example of how of not being a control freak with these things and not getting too carried away as a director, because Katy had said to me before the shoot, well, there's one little story I'd love to tell, and I'm not going to tell you yet, Chris, what it is, but there's one little thing. So just remind me when we go to the Barrows that there's a story to tell. And I didn't want to press any further or ask anything more. I just thought, well, okay, it's nice to be surprised, isn't it? And so it just happened. We were always going to go to the Barrows. We were always going to, it's a lovely place to revisit. And the drone, of course, brings it to life in a very different way. And then I think what you get there is just a sense of something beyond Doctor Who, of a kind of a personal, it's a very personal story that they share. And I think you see that weight of history between John and Katy as well. You get a real sense of the fact that they've worked together, they've known each other for 50 years, and that they can confide in each other like that. They're very different people, but I think it's a moment that really meant something to both of them to be able to share. And really with that, we did two passes of it, really. We filmed the reality of what happened on a handheld camera, and just really I didn't talk for 20 minutes or so. I just shut up and just thought, got to see what happens and see what they're chatting about. And then we got a drone version of the same thing, because obviously I would be in the drone shot if I was, I would be on the ground filming.
Magic cameras, invisible.
But it's very real. It's not planned or scripted. It's just what Katy had in her head that she felt ready to say. And I think it's a very enlightening moment. And we benefited from, I think, it being the perfect location to tell that story, just as you're getting into magic hour and the sun's coming down, and so everything just feels a bit more special. So no, we were very happy, and I think it comes at just that right moment in the film, at the kind of midway section, so it feels like the heart of the film there. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. That it's nice to know it worked. I hope.
I think, as I said, the key word there, the whole thing is joy, isn't it? It's just, it really reminds you, not that we need reminding most of the time, but it reminds you of just what a lovely world the world of Doctor Who is. It's these people who are so happy to be going back to where they filmed 50 years ago, and they're absolutely loving it.
I hope you've enjoyed this chat with Chris. If the other 3 parts of this interview are currently in existence, then I will put links to them around this screen. But if not, you'll simply have to subscribe in order to see the rest of them, won't you? Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I also hope you'll enjoy the next one. Until then, don't forget to embrace your obsession.